probably sounded terrible, but I do not care.
One day with zero love just turns into a lonely night. No one's around me and it's getting cold, and all the chords I use are getting old. Tonight it's only me and my sins, and my sins, and my sins, and my sins. Oh, sometimes you need to go away.
Chris Connor, aka Scubadiver, originally started making music about 5 years ago. He started with his track and released it, Sugar Shock. Now, he'd originally made the song for his sister, which I actually found that out before I talked to him on, a call. I remember when I told him that, he was just absolutely blown away. He's like, how'd you find that? When in reality, it was just on the SoundCloud, very deep down, and it was on the cover that he had made it for his sister. Of course, it's not really the best track ever, but it's really interesting to see where he came from, and you can definitely hear, his attraction to synth still, and just generally, you could just hear a lot in it that eventually evolved into what he is today. Over the course of about 3 years, he would just continuously release instrumentals and stuff, and he really started getting serious into music when he listened to Igor by Tyler, the Creator. This album really showed him at the time that, I could make something that sounds abstract and experimental without having to conform to normal genre stations. You don't have to make a generic pop song to go number one. He saw that Tyler, if he could go number one with Igor, that if he made strange music as well, and he was making strange music, that he could still go number one. That really pushed him to really start making music. But he still wasn't sound making music, so he really just kind of on and off was making music and making tracks and just putting them in a folder on his computer. He had some pretty good enjoyment doing so. But in early 2020, he listened to all these tracks in just random order. He was like, hey, this is not bad. I should release this. So that's what he did. In the beginning of the pandemic, he really started making music. He came to love people like Tame Impala, JPEG Mafia, and was intrigued by producers such as Kanye, Madlib, and Alchemist, just to name a few. And sometime in 2020, he released all these demos to SoundCloud. He had listened to it and sat back and, as I said, hey, this really isn't that bad. I should release this. Later, though, he would take down all songs from SoundCloud. He redid a lot of the songs and really reproduced a lot of these songs, mixed them all, did some different vocal takes for a couple of them, and generally just remade the album because he realized that these SoundCloud demos weren't really that finished, and that he was like, hey, if I just sat down here for like a week or a couple weeks and just only focused on this, I could make something amazing. And so that's what he did. Sat down for a couple weeks. He notes these times as annoying, mentally draining, and definitely an experience that's not very enjoyable, but he says he really likes the aftermath. And so he reproduced all the tracks and released them to all streaming services, and then he started to promote them. And this is when he joined TikTok. He would post these videos that actually gave him a good audience, called Posting My Songs Every Day Hoping Someone Likes Them. And he would do this for a couple months, and eventually he got a couple big people, interested in him. He was really successful in the whole sense of things, considering these songs weren't really the best, but he really only gained a couple hundred followers during this time, so, he was just generally just trying to promote this music and hoping that someone would pick him up and, give him some motivation. And in these first few hundred followers that he gained the attention of DDK, another rapper and TikTok music promoter. I had a convo with Scuba, as I said, and when I asked him the question, who was the person who really just found your music early and has been with you since? And he noted DDK. He was one of the first people to really support his music and like it, and later on he would go to produce a couple songs for him, and there are still a couple songs in the vault that he has with him. But since it had been a while since he really released anything, his TikTok views started going down because people were just hearing the same stuff over and over again. But he started to release snippets of his new album.
Now, I say what I do.
And I'll show you how it tried me.
This was Scubadiver's real breakout album. It launched from being completely unknown to being a little slightly less unknown, which is a big feat if you don't know. This album also had a huge change in production for Scuba, because in Scuba season he didn't really sample many things. He was mostly just playing all these instruments himself and putting the occasional audio clip in. But for this album, he went in here thinking, hey, I've never sampled before, what if I just sample this entire album? And that's where we got Apple Cider Ranch from. This also was the rise of his producer tag.
Now, I say what I do.
Which, if you ask me, pretty good producer tag. Now, let's go on to the cover first. This is the album cover. Now, personally, I really do like this album cover. It's got some really nice grain vinyl noise to it, and it just generally looks pretty cool. It's not very vibrant, it just kind of has a nice little color palette sheet that you can recognize. It's a very easy on the eyes cover, but I feel it does have a lot of cool things to it. Like for one, that is his dad on the cover. This picture was taken a really long time ago, that's all I'm going to say, because I don't really know the exact date. But this is an old picture of his father. He was going through old photos with his father when he came across this one. And Scuba thought it was just a really cool photo, so he used it for the Apple Cider Ranch. And of course, the whole aesthetic of the album is being alone on a ranch that makes apple cider. It's a very simple concept, but you know, it definitely has some meaning to it. The production on this album is crazy. You can tell how better he is at mixing and production since Scuba season. You can tell how much better he got at mixing during the whole process of Apple Cider Ranch. Because in Scuba season, the mixing was questionable. But the mixing on this is some pretty good stuff. I mean, you can play it on pretty much any speaker and it's gonna sound how you want it to sound. The mixing on it is just amazing, sounds beautiful on anything you put it on. If you have some really good high quality headphones, which luckily I do, you can hear every single thing. Not to mention, he produced, mixed, and recorded this album entirely in his bedroom at the time, which is an impressive feat if you don't know. Of course, talking about this album, there's one big elephant in the room that we have to note, which is No Oath. This song in particular stands out. The production is crazy, the vocals are not bad, and the songwriting is pretty good, but the beat switch is what really launched him into a bigger audience. This beat switch is absolutely, it's crazy. It's pretty notable, to say the least. It's pretty impressive how well it blends between the first instrumental and the second one, and of course the producer tag in the very middle and switching to the beat switch. It's pretty amazing, and then the synths going from ear to ear is just crazy. This song did pretty well on TikTok. It really did really well all over the internet. This song really brought him to a really big audience and really showed his talent. This is by far his biggest song and by far his biggest album so far. It has the most streams, and No Oath currently has the most streams out of any of his songs, so Me and My Sense is really rising up and is currently his second biggest song, and it's probably going to pass No Oath. We'll get on to Me and My Sense later. The themes behind this album are general loneliness and being isolated. That's what he felt during the making of the album. I'm not going to go too much into detail, but you can just kind of hear the emotion he conveys in a lot of these songs and just the storyline going across from song to song. I quite like this album with these themes, and again, as I said, the emotion showed in the songs is pretty good, and the songwriting throughout is pretty impressive considering what he had made before. It was a pretty good leap. Now that we're done talking about that, we'll get into some fun facts about the album. You know, this one at first I didn't really pick up on, but he actually interpolates Tame Impala's Runaway Houses City Clouds on Anonymous. I didn't really pick up on this until he pointed it out to me, which was something interesting, I guess. I didn't even notice it at first until, of course, he pointed it out to me. And then I went to listen to Tame Impala song, and I listened to this one, and I was like, that sounds really similar. You know, being a big fan of Tame Impala, I'm just surprised I didn't pick up on it on first, but it's definitely a light interpolation of the song. You can hear it, but It's definitely, very subtle. The No Oath beat switch was originally not on the finished product. It was really like a last minute thing for him. He originally had an outro with a saxophone sample, but he decided against it because he said it just didn't sound good, he didn't like it. And so eventually, a couple days before he released the album, he came up with the beat switch. So that's something interesting to note, that his breakout track couldn't have never happened. The song Take It Slow was made the same day that he turned all the songs into distribution services. That's pretty interesting. He told me that he'd probably never do that again, but he says it was just kind of a last minute thing. He just made the song and added it to the album. Now that we're done with Apple Cider Ranch, we're going to get on to the album I have the most info about, which is Stealing Traffic Cones.
This was gonna be a little less energetic.
This is all around his most finished, well-rounded project. The production and mixing are miles ahead of Apple Cider Ranch, which I really thought Apple Cider Ranch was mixed very well, but then when I heard Stealing Traffic Cones, I was blown away by how better the mixing is on it. It's just kind of surprising how he evolved from really good to pretty good. I found that pretty interesting. First, let's start with the cover. Actually, let's dial that back a bit. There we go. This is the original photo for the Stealing Traffic Cones cover. Of course, it's very simple. It's just, a silly photo. But the whole theme behind the album is being a kid. It's being stupid. You're not mature. You're going to be doing stupid things, such as stealing traffic cones. This is the concept art for it. Of course, there's no names on this because he changed the album name a couple times before coming to Stealing Traffic Cones, but they all follow the same little storyline. And then this is the finished album cover. As you can see on the top right or left, I don't know, I'm looking at nothing right now. This is just post-editing. There's a $10 sticker on it. Now, I quite like that the vinyl look on it, which of course ties into the album's story and such. I do like this album cover though. There's a lot to it. It's very well made, professionally made. I could definitely see this being on some kind of mainstream release. Overall, it fits in very well to what the album is. There were a couple names in mind for the album, but the whole concept behind the album is being a kid. You're acting childishly. You're going to be doing stupid things. You're going to be doing things that, of course, no one in the right mind would be doing, like stealing traffic cones. And you can see throughout the album as the songs progress, he slowly gets more mature as the album goes on. And one of my favorite songs from the album, which really kind of shows a change in all this, would have to be The Opera. This is definitely my favorite song by far on the album. The feature on it is just amazing, and Scuba's performance is really well as well. The other titles for the album were Saga of a Junior, Orange Juice Ranch, a play on Apple Cider Ranch, and I Steal Traffic Cones, which of course evolved into Stealing Traffic Cones. This is all around an amazing album. I definitely recommend listening to this album first. This was the first album I listened to when finding out about him again, but it's just such a crazy album. I remember the first time I listened to it, I was like smiling the whole time listening to it, because just the production is absolutely insane, and it's just kind of like what I like, It's definitely on the side of experimental hip-hop, and dives into alternative occasionally. There's not really much change in the genre other than being experimental hip-hop, but the production is very amazing. The mixing is beautiful, and just the instrumentals are just crazy. Currently, there's actually a vinyl release for Stealing Traffic Cones, so if you do want to be involved in the backing of the vinyl pressing of Stealing Traffic Cones, link will be in the description. It's $27. Now, this is where Stealing Traffic Cones ends, but I actually have some information.
I definitely need to fix my my vocals because they're not really on time. The me and Frank thing. It's a very long song, but we're gonna zoom in on the part that's the good part, bro. Gets this little intro going. I don't know. I'll do something. But this is what I got so far. On this, but I don't want to like bug anybody. You stick to the music, I'll take them in.
Let's send a prayer for the kids who never making it out. They're giving up, they telling it, but never roughing it out. God save the soul, their lives got sleeping pills and 9 to 5. I save my soul, don't let that life be any more mine. Big dreams exist, can't wait till soon. That's all they say, cause they be jealous of the way that I move.
It's a very emotional and like conclusive track. So
I had the pleasure of talking to Scubadiver, and I brought up a certain name to him, which actually did ring a name to him, which is Wings. This was overall like a really happy, upbeat album, though he did scrap it during making the instrumentals, though it was actually repurposed into the Jacob Bartoloni tape, which is an instrumental album. I probably butchered that last name. It's spelt wrong in my script. I can't do anything about it. The album is released under the name Oscar Tate, so if you want to go listen to it and see what Wings sounded like, it's a very upbeat album. It's very happy. I'm pretty sure all the audio clips were not originally in there, so, you know. Now, there was a darker tape that was made after or before the Wings tape, and this one was called In Yellow. Now, this one was apparently extremely dark album. It apparently had really dark aspects to it, and overall just had a very gloomy sound to it. Now, he did scrap this tape, and to my knowledge, there is no snippets of it. He told me directly he didn't really tease anything about it, and also it's probably never going to release or anything relating to it. Now, for the new LP4, I'm guessing it's going to be like an in-between between upbeat and gloomy, but also having those dark moments, also having the happy moments is what I'm hearing from all these snippets. So, you know, that's really all I know currently. So there's also a little change coming to my upload schedule. This is the end of the video, by the way, so you can click off if you want. I'm just going to talk about some upload schedule stuff. It takes a while to make these videos. I've been working on this video for almost a month now, and it has been a pain in the ass to make this video because my editing software kept messing up. I almost lost the project twice. I lost it once and re-edit the whole video and refilm it as well. There's just been a lot of just things impeding me from making this video, so I'm going to be probably uploading like album reviews and other music related content, talking about music genre rather than talking about, you know, an artist's career and stuff. So if you want to, you know, if you're up for that, I'm gonna start uploading that. If you don't, just tell me, and then I'll stop uploading those videos. So this is the end of the video, by the way, so subscribe and like the video, please. It really helps. This one, I'm hoping it'll get a bit of traction, but since it's not too big of a name of artist, I'm not expecting it to do very well. But I just did this video because I just really felt I wanted to do this video. It was really fun to make. It was fun to talk with Scuba and, you know, conversate about his music and such, and really get his story out, because I feel it is important to document upcoming artists, because, you know, a lot of times that isn't really done, and you can tell from artists, big artists nowadays, how their stories are just so conformed and distorted that it's hard to tell what actually happened. This is the end of the video again, so subscribe, like the video, leave a comment below, really helps me out. Subscribe, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Peace.